So I filmed a little video earlier, just a 3 or 4 minute long one, about the Amir Khan versus Kell Brook negotiations. If you want the update, check that video out. But essentially, Amir Khan is playing hard to get in the Kell Brook negotiations. Now, I've always sat on the fence with Amir Khan and Kell Brook. I've always sat on the fence. And I feel now it's about time that I get off the fence and come out with a strong opinion. And I know that's quite a risky thing to do because, let me say, Amir Khan is one of these fighters who has a very, very loyal support. And they will defend Amir Khan, through thick and thin. His supporters seem to be more Amir Khan fans than they are boxing fans. And let me say, I'm a boxing fan who happens to like Amir Khan. We all have really. We all remember watching Amir Khan in the Olympics. We all remember watching him turn pro. And we've all followed the roller coaster ride throughout his career. He's one of those fighters that the wider boxing public has all been involved in. And I am a fan of Amir Khan. I really am. I'm a fan of him as a fighter. Real entertaining fighter. The Marcus Maidana fight, the Peterson fight, the Garcia fight. Lots of other fights that I can't roll off the tip of my tongue now. Malinaji. Amir Khan is never in a dull fight. Never in a dull fight. And certain things he does in the ring are so advanced, that he should be commended as a fighter. And as I say, I'm a fan of Amir Khan's. And if I really lay my cards on the table, I'm more of a fan of Amir Khan than I am of Kell Brook. I feel more invested in Amir Khan's career. I've followed Amir Khan for longer. I've watched more Amir Khan fights. Amir Khan's been in the bigger fights, the better fights. I've always said I'm the reason I kind of sat on the fence with this one is because I'm the rare boxing fan who's actually considers themselves to be a fan of both guys. I don't sit in the Khan camp or I don't sit on the Kell Brook camp. But I must say that if I had to choose a side, who am I a bigger fan of? It would probably be Amir Khan. I just feel more invested in his career. That's not saying I necessarily believe Amir Khan will win the fight. It's saying that instinctively I'd say I'm more of an Amir Khan fan. But right now I've got to say, I think Amir Khan is really damaging his career. And I think he's ruining his legacy. Amir Khan should be enjoying the peak years of his boxing career. He really should. He should be in his prime. He should be at the peak of his powers, the height of his celebrity, however you want to phrase it. And if you look at Amir Khan, if you look at his early wins, his rise to world championship level, some of the guys he's defeated, Amir Khan should now be in a position where he's being discussed as an all-time great British fighter, top 20 of all time. He should be very much putting himself in that position. But he hasn't done so. For me, he's made some extremely poor tactical decisions in his career today. Specifically since the move to welterweight. And I see those tactical decisions continuing to be poor, possibly irreparably. Let's start with let's actually look at who he's fought in the last few years. And I agree he's fought a higher level of opposition than Kell Brook generally. And I do also agree that Kell Brook should be fighting a better level of opposition. But it's not just about Khan and Kell Brook here. It's about Khan and Kell Brook, Khan and Mayweather, Khan and Pacquiao. What has Amir Khan actually done the last few years? Luis Calasso, Devon Alexander, Chris Algieri. Now, they were all entertaining fights in their own way, but they weren't big fights. They weren't massive events. I think the Calasso fight was even on an undercard, albeit a Mayweather card. These aren't the sort of coming out parties. These aren't the fights that he'll be remembered for at the end of his career. And what he spent time doing, rather than worrying about his own path, or rather than building himself into a superstar, is he has chased the big fights, but he's chased them to the detriment of the rest of his career. It was understandable he wanted the Mayweather fight. Totally understandable. But not at the cost of being inactive and wasting the best years of your career. And then when Mayweather finally departed the scene, going after the Manny Pacquiao fight, again, I think Amir Khan has kind of taken on a new persona as this moaning character who complains and moans and bitches about not fighting Mayweather and Pacquiao rather than going out and actually winning big fights himself. I remember after the Tyson Fury fight, he said, "I thought Tyson Fury had the style to beat Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko's a great fighter, but Fury just had him style-wise. It'd be the same if I fought Floyd Mayweather." The guy just cannot leave it alone. He became obsessed with Floyd Mayweather. Then he became obsessed with Manny Pacquiao. I even heard him calling out Miguel Cotto at 155 pounds at one point. The guy has become so obsessed with chasing these big fights, unsuccessfully on every occasion, that he's left his career behind. He seems to have forgotten about progressing his career in other senses. And we've seen him in average fights. Chris Algieri, Alexander, Colasso, they're respectable opponents. I'm not going to say they're terrible fights. They probably are better fights than Kell Brook Jojo Dan, Kell Brook versus Frankie Gavin. But I think Amir Khan should be pushing for, top 20 all-time great British level. And these fights are stagnating his career, not helping him get there. Amir Khan's now talking about considering a matchup with Danny Garcia. And I can understand why that's appealing. Garcia's a big name, he's unbeaten. He's got a victory over Amir Khan. Perhaps Amir Khan could go and right the wrongs. But in terms of an event, that's nowhere near as big an event as Kell Brook. He's asking for £10 million or an 80-20 split against Kell Brook. Does he really think that he's going to get £10 million for fighting Danny Garcia? Does he really think he's going to get 80-20 fighting Danny Garcia? Khan knows his commercial importance. But by forcing it on an opponent to that extent, it's almost suggesting that you don't actually want the fight. Perhaps Khan could look at a guy like Carl Frost. Carl Frost, if we look at his career, took real tough fights on the way up. Like Amir Khan when he was fighting Maidana and Garcia and Peterson, Frost was taking fights like Pascal, Jermaine Taylor, Mikhail Kessler, Andre Durrell. Similarly, they had one or two losses. They took the toughest fights up. But what will Carl Frost actually be remembered for? What will go down as his career-defining fight? Well, Carl Frost's career-defining fight, where he made the big money, where he made the big celebrity, where he really became the international superstar, was the George Groves fight. The domestic matchup. The bad blood. We saw how effective bad blood is building up a fight in that Carl Frost-George Groves fight. Also in the recent Joshua Dillian White fight, where they were able to sell 450,000 pay-per-views for a British title fight. Khan versus Brook. The animosity is there. The story is there. The history is there. Wembley Stadium is there. It's a mega fight. At the end of the day, Kell Brook may not have a stronger resume as Amir Khan. But Kell Brook's a good fighter. He's a world champion. And Amir Khan, I think, needs Kell Brook as much as Kell Brook needs Amir Khan. A win over Kell Brook, promoted in the way it's going to be promoted, takes Amir Khan to superstardom. Kell Brook can be Amir Khan's. Kell Brook can be the Groves to the Frotts. Kell Brook can be the Costa Zoo to the Ricky Hatton. If Amir Khan wants to fight, it's there. It's mega money. It's 6, 7, 8 million pounds. It's one of the top 5 biggest fights ever in Britain, perhaps. It's going to break ticket sale records. I estimate it's got to do over 500,000 pay-per-view buys. It's got to, hasn't it? At 20 quid a pop. It's going to sell out Wembley Stadium. This is a career-defining fight. This is the kind of fight that would make a Manny Pacquiao fight you, that would make a Miguel Cotto fight you. Winning a close points decision over a Chris Algieri is not on that sort of level. You know, it's clear that Amir Khan doesn't like Kell Brook. It's clear that he feels that he's the A-side, which he is. And it's clear that he thinks Kell Brook hasn't fought better opponents than him. He's justified in thinking all those things, perhaps. But what he's neglecting is that his career is slowly wasting away. Khan is a guy whose main asset and attribute is speed. You start getting into your 30s, you start moving up weight divisions, that speed is not going to be the same. You know, those furious combinations, that blistering hand speed. Khan should have been in the biggest fights of his career the last 2-3 years. Instead, he's been running around, chasing opponents, and, to be honest, turning himself into a bit of a moaning character. It's really, really unfortunate. And at this point, Amir Khan's resume, Amir Khan's legacy, is not what it could be. It really isn't what it could be. He can rectify that. He can put everything right. But for me, he's got to fight Kell Brook. It's like a Carl Frampton versus Scott Quigg fight. You know, it doesn't matter which one's the bigger name. Doesn't matter which one has the world title. These guys need each other. These guys were made for each other. Even if Amir Khan goes out and beats Garcia, even if Amir Khan goes on to fight Adrian Broner, it's not on the same level. Kell Brook versus Amir Khan is headline news. That fight is mega in the UK. And I just feel Amir Khan's career, Amir Khan's legacy, and Amir Khan's potential, financial potential, celebrity potential, career potential, will never, never, never be fulfilled unless he takes that fight. I'm not saying he's ducking Kell Brook. I'm not saying he's scared of Kell Brook. I'm not saying he's going to lose to Kell Brook. But whatever he's thinking, he's wasting a lot of time, he's damaging his career, and he's damaging his legacy. I think this fight needs to happen. It really needs to happen for Kell Brook, for Amir Khan, for British boxing. And personally, I'm going to come off the fence. If the fight doesn't happen, I am going to think less of Amir Khan. I know the Khan fans won't like that, but look, I'm a Khan fan. But first and foremost, before I'm an Amir Khan fan, I'm a boxing fan. And as much as I like Amir Khan, as much as he's given us great nights, as much as I've followed him and supported him throughout his career, this fight needs to happen for boxing. End of. Let me know your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up, like, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Many thanks for watching.